both the number of the audience in this hall and the title that has been given to this talk, right? The title given to this talk, How to Learn English, give me enormous pressure because it's such a big topic. And as an English learner, I'm still an English learner because I don't think I'm eligible to give you a solemn and proper lecture on how to learn English, since English is my second language, like you all. I did a degree in England in English literature, and I'm still a very happy English learner because the more I learn, the more fun and marvel I find in the complexity and the profundity of the English language itself. So I tentatively write a weekly column for a Hong Kong, for a free handout in Nan Kwai Fong, something you may have heard of, right? A Hong Kong magazine, and to practice my written English. And sometimes I got myself into trouble, like last year with the Filipino domestic assistance, and that caused a bit of a diplomatic row with the Filipino government. And thank God the Philippines is a Catholic country, so I haven't been made a Salman Rushdie of Hong Kong. Do you know of Salman Rushdie? A British Indian writer who wrote something offensive against the Islamic community, and he earned himself a fatwa from the Islamic countries, right? An order from the top spiritual leader of Iran for his head of assassination. So sometimes writing too good English could put you into trouble or even cost your life, right? So don't. Right? A grade B in English for your Wei Hao, Hong Kong CEE would be good enough. Sometimes a little bit of sometimes a bit of mediocrity would safeguard your life, right? So how to learn good English? I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to teach, don't get me wrong. I'm here to share my experience. Good English is always plain and simple and easy English. It doesn't mean learning vocabulary doesn't do you any good. A wide knowledge of English vocabulary is always a good thing. But I think as we come to writing, as far as writing is concerned, it's always better to use easy and simple words to make your essay or your article interesting and easily accessible to average readers. To write good English, I think, to me, involves a lot of reading, right? Reading good stuff, good literature, poetry, novels, and even watching films, or, as the Americans put it, movies. I think we start with, I think I better start with my cinematic experience, because I'm a film buff, right? I like watching films. I like watching, my favorite is the James Bond series. Not politically very correct, not a very, thank you. Yes, okay, later. All right, thank you. I mean, the James Bond series has been criticized as male chauvinistic and racist, right? But it's also good, entertaining stuff. Whenever I watch a James Bond movie, I always pay great attention to its first 5 minutes. Have you ever seen any James Bond films? Have you? Some of you nod your heads, and a majority of you remain silent, but doesn't matter. It's a sort of, outdated stuff written by a retired naval intelligence officer called Ian Fleming. in the early 1950s, 50s and 60s, in the old days of the Cold War, when the Russians and Americans were in very bad terms, right? So James Bond turned out to be a hero at that time. And the 1950s and the 60s, it was the eras of the bikinis, the swinging 60s, right? So the so-called white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, WAPs, 鬼佬,白種人,係嘛?鬼佬, they have a dominant figure in these movies. 鬼佬即係話白種嘅 white Caucasian man. So, I mean, James Bond movies has undergone a bit of a dramatic evolution since then, since the fall, the downfall of the Soviet Union empire, and now it's full of vegetarians, right? Vegetarian stuff, meaning James Bond being seen as a hero, gender-wise, in equal terms, right? But when I watch the James Bond series, I always pay attention to the first 5 minutes because I always think the first 5 minutes is the most gripping part, is the best part of the whole film. And throughout 40 years, the themes, the dramas, the portrayal of the heroic figure like James Bond have undergone a lot of changes. But what remains unchanged is the way of his storytelling. The first 5 minutes is always eye-catchy, it's always gripping, it's always, it puts the hero in an impossible and dangerous situation, so that as an audience, your attention is captured straight away. The first 5 minutes of each James Bond film is full of dramatic actions. It's either skiing with the hero being chased by a group of villains whose identities remain unknown until later, until after the credit comes out and the theme is sung, right? So the first 5 minutes is the most important bit in English writing or in any essay writing, in Chinese as well, because we live in a very nervous world. We live a very nervous life. I mean, our life is dominated by computer. We always, with the young generations, their attention span is very short. If you give a boring lecture, perhaps like this one, after 5 minutes, if I fail to catch your attention, you'll fall asleep. So it applies to the beginning of each essay. Always start off interestingly. 頭嗰5分鐘，第一段一定要寫得明確，同埋咧 with a bit of suspense， 有啲懸疑感，係嘛？ All good English novels, you may notice, do it the same way. Be it Harry Potter, James Bond, or a couple of examples I'm going to quote now, right? Like this one, by Frederick Forsyth. 呢個咧係一個英國好出名嘅間諜小説家。哇！唔好以為英國嘅小説淨係得 Harry Potter 一個，除咗我頭先講 James Bond 嘅 Ian Fleming， 仲有呢個叫 Frederick Forsyth。佢咧寫咗好多嗰啲間諜小説。女仔或者唔中意睇間諜小説啊，但係一旦如果女仔中意睇間諜小説啊，犀利啊！你將來一定出人頭地，因為中意睇間諜小説嘅係男仔。如果女仔都情迷間諜小説，即係你有某種嘅男性嘅氣質。一有男性嘅氣質，你將來會有領導才能。So believe me， 如果女仔淨係睇瓊瑤、林燕妮同埋張小嫻，唔出奇，通街都係，係嘛？女仔中意睇 Harry Potter， 更加唔出奇。咪女仔如果有人中意睇呢個叫 Frederick Forsyth， 不得了啊！